Welcome, everybody, to Football Discussion Daily. My name is Joe. I'm here with co-host
You.
CGO, or George. Today is the 16th of February, 2026. There's four things we're going to talk about today. Number one, an FA Cup result. Best team in England beat Macclesfield Town 1-0, Brentford. There's the FA Cup draw. I'll read off the games. There's Fulham, Southampton, Newcastle, Man City, Leeds versus Norwich, Sunderland versus either Port Vale or Bristol City, Mansfield Town versus Arsenal, Wolves versus Liverpool, West Ham versus Brentford, and Wrexham against Chelsea. So we'll talk about the matchups there. Barcelona lost in La Liga today, 1-2, which they are now second in the table, falling behind Real Madrid. And we have four Champions League fixtures tomorrow in the round of 24. That's Galatasaray versus Juventus. That is Benfica versus Madrid. That is Monaco versus PSG and Dortmund versus Atalanta. George, I know there's some other news, but we're going to focus on those four things today. Let's talk first about Barcelona versus Girona. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm American.
Girona.
But I don't know. I don't think it might be Girona. But
Yeah, it's possible.
George, did you watch do you think this the same mistakes that Barcelona made against Atletico in their last game? Do you feel like this was different? What did you see today? Was it lineup wise? Was it similar lineup to what they did against Atletico?
Well, at least we had a player like Rafinha coming back to play for Barcelona. You all know Rafinha is one of the key players of Barcelona. He wasn't played in the game against Atletico because he was injured. I think he missed about three games for Barcelona, and then coming back from injury. I was hoping that his presence will help the Barcelona team propel them to victory. But one of the things I noticed in this game, Barcelona dominated the game, but the problem is that their back line is so exposed. I don't know, maybe it has to do with the tactics they normally adopt in playing. Girona was able to, the shot they had a lot, about almost nine, is it 7 to 9 shots on goal? And then Barcelona had about four. So it tells you how the Barcelona defense is so open. Attack wise, they are very good. Lamine Yamal lost a penalty. He played a penalty that hit the woodworks. And then I knew there was a point where Rafinha also hit a target, but I think it hit the woodwork also. So I would say they were a bit unlucky, but their defense is too open. And when you play against a top sized with great quality, with good defense and good attack. They will punish you for that. So I was disappointed they couldn't beat Girona today. And now they are behind Real Madrid. But Real Madrid is 2 points ahead of them. So I don't
Yeah.
know, Joe, do you think with the way things are going with Barcelona, you think they still have that chances of still surpassing Real Madrid?
I mean, I think Real Madrid are a machine. I read that Real Madrid have their fourth highest point total in the history of their history in La Liga after 24 fixtures. And that, you know, they've been in crisis mode and they're still first in La Liga. They fired their coach for not for I think Xavi got fired for non-performance issues, but they justified it by saying performance, which I'm not sure is true. But Real Madrid has been a very good side, and La Liga have always been decided by 1 or 2 points here or there. What surprised me most is that, from what I saw and what I read and what of analysis online, is that Barcelona deserved to lose this. That maybe if one of those chances that you had talked about went in, they dropped a point instead of they might have dropped 2 points instead of 3 points. But this is a bad performance, and also I feel like the inexperience of Barcelona played. I think that um, in a vacuum, Lewandowski did come onto the game today, but they're missing true performers like that. Pedri, in my opinion, is one of the best midfielders in the world. He did not play today. I feel like when I see him play, he can run a game. I'm looking at their lineup online. I watched the extended highlights and saw some analysis, but I see Danny Olmo and three forwards in the line. If you play four forward, Danny Olmo is a good player. He will work hard and he's technical wherever, but he's not constantly thinking about the shape of a team in order to defend against attacks and set a team up. He's not a player running the pitch like I see Pedri doing week in, week out. And so, I mean, I think that Barcelona, I don't know when Pedri's back. I don't know when Rafinha when he can start playing 90 minutes week in week out. But those type of experience, or Lewandowski, I don't know when that type of experience will come back. But if they have to shift their lineup and play their backups, I think it's going to be really difficult to keep up with Madrid. But I think the Clasico will be important, obviously, and I think the next one is at home. Is it not the last one?
Yeah. I think they'll be playing at home because the first El Clasico was at the Santiago Bernabeu Stadium, which I
Okay.
remember Real Madrid won 2-1. So the return leg will be in Nou Camp. So
Really
I
quickly,
think that
George.
will be a very big decider for the title race.
Yeah, I think that it'll. I think Real Madrid will run away if they've got to. I think they have better experience, and their flaws are more. They don't have a Pedri in midfield to run the show. They have very good midfielders, but I think when they lost Cruz and Modric, they lost players who could really just dictate the entire pace of play. And their midfielders are very energetic, very technical, very smart, very capable of scoring goals and finishing. But running a game like a Modric or a Cruz did is a very different skill set. That out of between Barcelona and Madrid, I think Pedri is the only one who's truly capable of doing it at the elite level. Um, so we'll see. All right, George. Champions League fixtures: Galatasaray versus Juve, Monaco PSG, Benfica Madrid, Dortmund Atalanta. Which one of these four games would excite you most?
I think the one that will excite me most is Benfica playing against Real Madrid. So Real Madrid, remember the last time they visited Benfica, they lost to Benfica. Benfica defeated them. That was the game that made Benfica to make it to the knockout phase. So I think it's going to be an interesting game, but I don't believe Benfica will find it that easy. I don't want to believe we'll see a repeat of what happened in the last encounter. Real Madrid, they know what is at stake. They know they just have to get victory this time around. So it's going to be a revenge mission for Real Madrid, even though they still have the opportunity of still playing at home in the return leg. But this is a game they need to get at least, if not a win, but a draw. Anything short of a draw, that will not be acceptable by most Madrid fans. That's what I
Yeah.
believe.
Do you think that I know Mbappe's missed some time over the last month since Xavi left and Arbeloa is back, and Real Madrid have arguably looked better. They faced some criticism of Mbappe where he's not a true winger and he's not a true inside forward, and that the team has more structure when he's gone. Do you feel like there's any merit to that argument, and do you feel like this Real Madrid team is possibly better without Mbappe? Or is Mbappe? I mean, Mbappe is quality; he's amazing. But just curious as to what your thoughts are.
Well, the issue is that Mbappe is not a natural center forward. And like you said, a lot of people have been talking about when Real Madrid plays with a player like Gonzalo Garcia, that Real Madrid has better shape when they play. But the reality is, I don't know if there's any coach that would like to sit an Mbappe on the bench and then will play a Gonzalo Garcia. That would be very, very difficult for any coach to do because Mbappe is a player that can make things out of nothing. So it will be very difficult to keep a player like Mbappe on the bench. And I was told the information today is that he's fit for the game against Benfica. So most likely, I think Mbappe will start. And he's the highest goal scorer of the team. So I don't see any coach benching a player who is the highest goal scorer of the team. That's not going to happen. So people might have their own opinion, but at the end of the day, the coach is the one who trains with the players and knows what each player can offer him on the pitch. So I see Mbappe starting for Real Madrid tomorrow.
I mean, yeah, but Mbappe, no coach also, on top of benching Mbappe, no coach is going to say, Mbappe, you need to be a winger or a forward. You're good enough to be either, and you're better than a winger if you play wing. You're better than a forward if you play forward. No coach is going to say that. I think that and it's difficult to. Mbappe is good enough that you can structure your whole team around him, but if your entire team is guys like Vinicius and Bellingham, who also want their entire team rotated around them, I feel like it's challenging, and I feel like that's one of the reasons Xabi failed to manage those personalities there. We'll see how Arbeloa does. Mbappe still has not won he's won a Super Cup and at Real Madrid, but not a major trophy yet. And on top of that, the team he left, PSG, won basically everything the year
Yes.
after he left. So I think he's very young, and people said this about a lot of players at 25 years old, 26 years old. Oh, this player can't win the big one, and then that player figured it out. Some players can't. I think I'm excited to see his career play out. He's exciting to watch. He did win a World Cup at 20 years old, and as a star player, and was also exceptional in another World Cup at 24. So yeah, he's a very good player, and I think that things like Champions League that are more tactical expose certain weaknesses in everybody. I don't think Mbappe is quite as good as Messi or Ronaldo was, 10 years ago, and I do feel like there are weaknesses in his game that other teams can lean into and expose that Messi could absolutely destroy teams 10 or 15 years ago.
You see Real Madrid going to Benfica to get the win in tomorrow's game.
Um, I feel like as a player and a mentality, you kind of have to always go in with a win, even in the Champions League knockouts. I don't feel like it's ever healthy to go in and say, "Oh, it's okay if we draw because our second leg is at home." So yeah, but within that realm, that within that mentality, there's certainly um, more aggressive tactics and less aggressive tactics. I think that if it's a draw game late, they're not going to push for a goal as much as they might at home. I think that if it's 2-2 at 80th minute, they might sub off a player and who's coming off an injury like an Mbappe, with a player like Garcia who is younger and fresher. But no, I think they'll certainly mentally will go in for a win. All right, George. Next topic: FA Cup draw. Fulham, Southampton, Newcastle, Man City, Leeds, Norwich, Sunderland, Port Vale or Bristol City, Mansfield Town, Arsenal, Wolves, Liverpool, Wrexham, Chelsea, West Ham, Brentford. Which of these games do you feel like is most exciting and why?
West Ham Brentford, because these are two Premier League teams. Because if you look at the team Arsenal will be playing, these are not Premier League teams. Chelsea is also playing a team that I think is in the Championship. So, if you ask me which game will be more interesting, that should be the game between two Premier League teams, West Ham and Brentford. And with the way West Ham is beginning to find their feet and their bearing now, I feel they are going to give Brentford a very, very good fight for their money. And come to think of it, they'll be playing at the London Stadium. So with the support they will be getting from their fans, that will make things a bit difficult for Brentford. But Brentford also have players who can hold their own and can get them the result. When you look at players like Thiago, we've seen how good that guy could be. And you see, even we are hearing stories that top clubs are now coming to approach Igo Thiago. I'm not surprised because when you start performing like that, definitely the big clubs will always come around to see if they can get the player. So they have
Yeah,
quality players that can get them the result. So it's going to be tough. The likes of Somerville playing for West Ham, he has been very good in the last 5, 6 games for West Ham. You have the likes of Bowen. These guys are very good players. So it's going to be a very, very tight match, and it can go either way, to be honest with you. So that's
yeah.
why it's more interesting because it's an unpredictable game. It's not a game you can just outrightly say this team is going to win or the other team will win. That's why it's going to be the most interesting game for me.
Interesting. I appreciate you saying that. I do feel like both Brentford and West Ham will have races in the Premier League. West Ham with relegation and Brentford fighting for Europe. Ultimately, I think Brentford will fight for and get a Europa League or a Conference League spot, which is awesome for our club. But I do feel like the longer we go in the FA Cup, the harder it is. If we have 1% less energy because we have three extra games on a Premier League game, that could be over 10 games in this very tight league. The difference between Europe and non-Europe. I'd love to see us in Europe. I feel like Keith and the players would rather push further in the league than an FA Cup. But I've also never seen an FA Cup run, and that's also exciting as a club. And West Ham, of course, financially want to get into. I mean, want to avoid relegation. I feel like they're the better team than Nottingham Forest right now. Nottingham Forest just sacked Dyche and hired Victor Pereira. You know, is one of the reasons Wolves is in the position they're in. So West Ham, I feel like absolutely have the quality to push, and 1% difference being because they have to play more FA Cup games might mean the difference between Championship next year and Premier League. We all know Wigan got to the FA Cup final and got relegated a couple years ago, and I'm sure their fans remember that moment. And we all know Leicester won the FA Cup and lost out in Europe, and we know how their club has gone the last 5 years. I don't think Brentford is going. That's going to happen to Brentford if they make the FA Cup final. I don't think that's gonna. I don't think West Ham. I don't think Wigan has been back up in the Premier League since they lost that FA Cup final. But yeah, we'll see. Or did Wigan win that FA Cup final? I forget. But they got to the final in the season they were relegated. I'm excited for Wrexham versus Chelsea. George, you dismissed this as a championship side. I mean, Wrexham has this giant TV show, and it's really exciting. Our good friend who shares a birthday with you is watching this show week to week. And so there's going to be all sorts of cameras on this Wrexham Chelsea game. He was in the National League, the fifth division, just 3 years ago. Yeah. Now they're facing Chelsea. Yes. And so, yes, I think they'll get wrecked. I think from a pure soccer fan perspective, it will not be a close game. They're seventh in the Championship. Yeah, championship. So they're not that team, but they have had a meteoric rise, and this is just the culmination of 5 years of investment. And so we'll get to see cameras all over there. FA Cup result, George, today. Last thing, Brentford beat Macclesfield Town 1-0. Macclesfield beat Crystal Palace last round, one of the biggest upsets in years. I thought it was pretty boring 1-0. I feel like we did fine. What were your thoughts on the match?
Well, Brentford rested most of their regular players. The likes of Igor Thiago were not, they were rested in this game. Then we had Damsgaard and the likes of Kevin Shade. These guys were all rested for this game. So that I think that made it a bit difficult for West Ham for Brentford, because if their key players had played this game, I'm sure they would have maybe even scored more than one goal, even though the goal came from an own goal from Marcus Reed. But I feel if they had played their regular players, I'm sure they would have had it more easier. But
For sure.
I feel the coach had to rest the regular players because of the kind of opposition they were going to play against. If you can't use maybe your reserve players to play games like this, then it means those players don't deserve to play in the Premier League club, if you ask me. So players who are always sitting on the bench should be able to play a team like Marcus Reed. If you can't play Marcus Reed, then you don't deserve to play for Brentford, because Brentford is a Premier League side. So I feel the coach did the right thing, because all these guys, you are being paid every week. So if you are earning salary, you should also render service to the club. So for me, it was a good approach. The coach used the players that are supposed to play the game, even though it was a bit difficult. But the most important thing is that the job was done. So
I'll say a couple
we must
things.
say congratulations to Brentford.
I'll say a couple things. Number one, like they played our starting. I mean, all the defenders in the game, all the midfielders had plenty of minutes in the Premier League this year. The goalie did not impress me at all when he backed up last year and has improved a lot over the last year. We played three forwards who do not get regular minutes in the Premier League, and forward as a position is harder to walk in cold off the bench and succeed in. You need a regular run of minutes, much more so than you do in midfield or defense, because those positions are more technical. And also as forward, these players are all very young. Reese Nelson has been around for a while, but he's not old. Um, and and as a young player, it's harder, regardless of position, to walk in and not play for months. That's why a lot of teams have older players as backups, like James Milner was at Liverpool for many years. Like you see players backing up positions, but I mean, like Giroud was at the end of his career at Arsenal and Chelsea. We see players like that who can step in because it's a lot easier in your 30s to step in and for 30 minutes and succeed at forward, and you don't need a run of games in order to be ready for that moment, for that finish, when a younger player does need a run of games for confidence. And so I do feel like it's a lot harder for a 22-year-old player to do that, especially at forward. That being said, it was never in doubt. Like Macclesfield did not threaten, but it was overall quite the boring game. I watched the entire thing, but boring in a good way. I want every game to be a boring 1-0 like that. Then we win the league. Let me close out just asking the group, what FA Cup draw excites you the most? What do you think is going wrong for Barcelona? And what Champions League fixture tomorrow excites you the most? We'll be back tomorrow to discuss Champions League results and the Champions League preview for Wednesday. Have a good night.